we're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of CP 2049, Solid State Society. Tonight with us we have Bo playing Elias Green and Doc playing Detective Purcell. Tonight's session is going to pick up where we left off um, with the session named Revelations. In Revelations, Detective Purcell is deep in the midst of the Daybreak Syndicate. He has joined them under false pretenses, seeming to be a street urchin looking for salvation in cyberspace. Unbeknownst to him, part of joining the Daybreak Syndicate is getting a small procedure done where they attach an implant behind the ear that allows the member to join their network and so on and so forth. During processing of Detective Purcell, certain interesting revelations are made about him, something that he himself is not expecting. At this time, another entity from cyberspace reveals itself and urges Detective Purcell to seek out his quarry, seek out which caused the explosion at the warehouse. While all this is going on one end of Icarus, on the other end, at Elias Green's shop, he gets a message, a very terse message from an old friend, Valentine. It seems Valentine is alive and well, but he is off Icarus, he's on the mainland. Whether he plans to come back or not, that is still unknown. However, he is a little concerned about an old friend of his, a hacker by the name of Nero. He urges Elias to do what he can to find out what did happen to Nero. Elias is not quite sure what did really happen, and he is not quite sure under what circumstances Val is reaching out to him. But later on, he does find that black coffee, Val's most prized possession, is actually in the police impound lot. It was found abandoned. When he sees that, Elias gets a little more serious. He thinks that there is more to be found about Val and his friend Nero. He does some online research and finds that one of Icarus's popular spot where hackers, data dealers, code crackers, freakers hang out is called the Untitled. He decides to head out to the Untitled in the wee hours of the morning to see what he can find out about Nero and what happened to him. And that's where we'll pick up with Elias Green, who has acquired Detective Purcell's car as he has just put it into gear and is heading out towards the Untitled. Moment for a scene change. Go ahead, Elias.
Elias stepped out into the drizzling rain, looking at the pale sheen of the streetlights onto the slick pavements. He took the last rack off of his cigarette and threw it onto the ground, and it made a hiss with a brief flicker of steam rising up into the air. He tipped his fedora onto his head, and walked across the street where there, parked in shadow, was the car of Detective Purcell. Opening the car, he steps in, eases the seat back. Well, Detective. This ain't no black coffee, but let's see what this thing can do, huh? He reaches over with his right hand and taps the computer, entering in the Untitled, and getting a roadmap there, and making his way swiftly and surely. Of course, Elias Green, always a law-abiding citizen, would never run any red lights, never break any laws, but he gets there as fast as he can. About halfway there, he likely rolls down the window and lights up another cigarette, listening to some tunes as he goes.
Doesn't take long for Elias to eventually reach the Untitled, and when he gets there, he finds a spot outside an old noodle bar. Elias, you get out of the car and you look around and you see there are signs talking about the Untitled, kind of down this road, and then you take a left.
Elias Green is on his third cigarette by the time he reaches the bar. He puts the car in park, steps outside, and you hear the door slam behind him. He buttons his leather jacket almost all the way to the top, not quite, and adjusts his cap. And he walks through the drizzling rain. As he walks down the alleyway, he looks around, making sure there's nothing untoward happening. Mr. Green is no stranger to back alleys. He's done back alleys, back deals, good deals, bad deals. He's helped ladies in distress, and he's been on the other end of things too. Does he notice anything out of the ordinary as he's walking towards the Untitled?
There are a few people around. Some people are at the noodle bar getting some late night food, but no one seems untoward or shady as you make your way towards the Untitled.
So he turns the corner there, looks around. Maybe he sees a few people that he knows and kind of gives them a little nod. And as he's about ready to turn the alley, a mangy dog comes up to him. There. What you looking for, pal? All right, come here. And he kind of leads the dog towards an old trash can. And he reaches in there, and Elias Green's always greasy, and he reaches his greasy hands into the trash can and gets out an old half-eaten pile of noodles. Here you go, old boy. Have a feast. I'll see you when I get out of here. Yeah, huh? Why don't you keep a lookout, lassie? Then he steps into the bar.
You step into the bar and you look around. All around you are unfamiliar faces, with very weary and worn out looks about themselves. Most of them kind of, thin, wiry folks. Many of them are just kind of hunched down, talking in whispers. They definitely don't seem the social type, as you can see from this bar. It's definitely a hacker underground hangout. You look around and you see there are a few people at the bar, and then there is this, the bartender. You see he's kind of, walking between patrons, handing out drinks and taking orders.
Basil walks into the bar, and sweet smell of smoke and vape kind of enters his nostrils, and he stifles a cough and turns to his left and comes up to the bar. I'll have Basil. Neat.
And the bartender looks up at you and he kind of nods his head, and you can see there are a couple of empty bar stools, and he points you towards them, and he turns around and he kind of raises his hands up to the third shelf, from the top, and you can see he's moving a few bottles, and eventually finds what looks like a bottle with a very old yellowing paper wrapped around it. The bottle seems half full. He pulls it down and he kind of reaches from underneath the bar counter, and he pulls out what looks like a tumbler, glass tumbler. He puts it down and he pours a stiff one. He seems to be in a giving mood this evening. There are not that many patrons. It's kind of the day is winding down because you were already asleep when you got woken up with the email from Val. And he places it and pushes it towards you. It's not often that I have people come in asking for an old an old drink like that. An old vintage, if I may say so.
Yeah, you don't find many bottles of that old libation lying around, do ya? He takes the liquid and swirls the amber liquid, and the light filters through it and glows upon Elias's face. I got an old friend that used to like this stuff. In fact, a couple old friends. I haven't seen him in a while. Well, here's to them. Takes a gulp. He says, So, looking to close up shop soon? I was having a hard time sleeping, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And he kind of looks around, and you can see his eyes are kind of sweeping past some of the people still. And these cooks have the same problem. Hackers, I tell you, staring into the screen all day long. They say that they have after images in their retinas when they go to sleep. That's one of the reasons why they cannot sleep. And then they come here and keep me up all night. And I'm not even a hacker. Well. Yes, hopefully these guys get done and leave soon so I can shut this place down and get some shut eye myself.
Hopped up on stems, images in their retinas. Some of them can't do real business, though. You know what I mean? Can't have a good conversation. Like about an old vintage of Basil Hayden's, eh?
I see. You're not a hacker then. Well, this is going to be a pleasant conversation. You're damn right these fools can't hold a conversation. They can't even hold eye contact. They're just so desensitized to the human connection. And he kind of looks up and points kind of like, loosely into the sky. Cyberspace, man. Cyberspace does strange things. Yeah, you heard of those new kooks on the street, the Daybreak Syndicate? Some of the shit they talk about. It's right out of a book, I tell you. Right out of a book.
Yeah. Right out of one of those old cyberpunk bottles. Books my buddy Val used to read, but I'm looking for a hacker. I'm looking for one that I haven't seen in a long time. And I'm just afraid that you might be right. Maybe he fell victim to those kooks, the Daybreak Syndicate. He was a good kid, had a great heart, but he was too trusting. Too trusting. I don't know, maybe have you heard of him? If I can trust you.
I don't know. I can't say I have. I mean, hackers walk through my doors. 10 come in, 5 leave, and it seems my Faraday cage. I thought that when I built it was a kooky cool idea. Nobody has a Faraday cage in their club. I'll build a Faraday cage. Little did I know that the hackers would be drawn to it like a moth to a light bulb. Now I can't get these fucks out here fast enough.
Like to say, man, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You either want a bustling bar and a full bank account, or you want some drinking all those frou-frou drinks over there. And he points to one of those blue glowing drinks the bar patron is imbibing. Elias would like to kind of get a read on the bartender. Is this a guy that can keep a secret? Is he a man's bartender, or is he somebody that's going to go flap their gums to the next person that asks?
Sure, that makes sense. Give me a moment. Let's do this. Let's do a talk plus charisma.
Talk, charisma. I have specialist talk. Roll 4d6 and drop 2 lowest dice for all checks in the skill.
I thought it says roll 3d6.
I have level 2, it looks like. Maybe it's
no, you're level 1. It's just written level 2 there, but you're at level 1.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
But it's already set up correctly, so you can just
Cool.
click on your token and roll off.
Skills. So talk, charisma?
Talk, charisma.
Talk.
Yep. So you've met people like this all the time. They run a business, and on the outside they always seem simple, right? This guy is definitely playing the part of a um, well, a knowledgeable bartender, someone who knows what's happening on the streets. He'll exchange pleasant conversation, some, you know, meaningless stories here and there. But you can see the way he looks at you, looks at his patrons, looks at what's happening behind you at the various booths where the hackers are talking. You can see that he is adept at holding a conversation, a meaningless conversation at the bar, but keeping a sharp ear to something that's interesting that might be happening in those booths. This guy definitely comes off as a data dealer. Um, you know, you can see, it is pretty late in the night. It's almost 4 in the morning. Most people would have shut up shop and gone. This guy's keeping this place open because he knows at any moment he can make a quick buck. That being said, the way he talks to you, the way he behaves, this guy is someone that holds privacy to a high standard. So if he's going to work with someone, he's going to, not spread the word or, look for repeat business by being discreet.
Mm-hmm. Very well. Elias Green kind of holds up a pack of cigarettes and gives a courteous look at Gabe, like, "Can I light up?" And
Sure.
say yes.
Sure.
And
We're all gonna
offers him
die
one.
anyway soon.
There you go. And Elias, flame flickers up and illumines his face in a red light. "Name's Elias Green, sir." He extends his right hand. "You might be?"
It's a pleasure to meet you, Elias. My name's Gabe.
Gabe. Like I said, it's not a common thing I can come to a place like this at 4 in the morning and have such a pleasant conversation. But, yeah, I'm looking for that old friend. And he leans forward. "Does the name Hiroshima mean anything to you around here?" He tries to look at Gabe and get a read on him.
Yeah, give me this time. Give me a notice plus wisdom.
Oh.
So he looks at you. Hiroshima. I can't say the name quite rings a bell.
Ah, I figured. You would have remembered the kid if you met him. There's a special way about him. But then again, I guess a lot of hackers come into this place,
Yeah,
buried
they
in
do.
their laptops.
That they do. I mean, these hackers they try their best to come up with the most weirdest, strangest name possible. It's hard to keep their names all lined up in my head. And then, I meet a guy, I talk to him, I do him a favor, he does me a favor, and then he just drops off the face of this planet. So unless you know something about what he was dealing with and who he was talking to, maybe then I could help you out here, but it's hard.
Well, Gabe, if you ever are in need of a favor, you can stop by my shop. Like I said, I don't always deal in data. I don't deal in bits and pieces. I deal in favors, in personality, and the goodwill of my fellow men. Just out of character, I can't remember if I know much about what he was up to and what Val was up to.
No, I don't think Val told you.
I think I just say I got a name. That's it.
Yeah, you just got to name Neuro and see kind of what's going on. So while you're having a drink there, what we can do is maybe you can send a text back to Val asking, man, like I need something more than just that.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make pleasant chit chat with Gabe and sip my bourbon as I bring out my data pad. What do I need? Some sort of password to get out of this Faraday cage?
Ah, yes, unfortunately, that is. You can just step outside the door and you'll be fine. Um, I'll keep your drink here, and your seat is reserved. Don't worry, nobody's gonna take it away. I'll keep an eye on it for you. It's not very
Awesome.
often that I have pleasant conversations with people who really know what the fuck they're talking about. And you can see him. He takes the bottle of basil and he pours himself a drink, and he keeps it by himself. And go on. Nobody's gonna touch your drink.
I'll be right back, Gabe. Thanks a million. He steps outside into the rain for a moment, puts a cigarette between his lips while his hands work at his data pad. He steps outside and leans against the wall. That dog is still scrummaging through that trash can. Elias gives a crooked grin and brings out his data pad. On it, he says, Val. He says, Elias, here at the Untitled. Bartender is chatty, but not chatty enough. I need more to go on than a fucking name. See you soon. Smiley face, smiley face.
And you hear the sound of the electronic mail head out. You're standing there, you're watching the dog kind of eat through the noodles, and minutes go by, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just when you think like, okay, fuck it, this is not working out. I don't know what this guy is on. Maybe he's just yanking your chain. You're just about to head into back into the Untitled, back into the Faraday cage, and just when you're about to step in, you hear the chime of your compad go, and you see a message from Val saying, "Deal gone bad. Do not know the details. One of Neuro's known contacts was this guy named Quasi Domo, an old school kook like me. It was a play on old keypads, autocorrects getting shit wrong. Maybe you might have better luck with that."
And before he steps back into the bar, he says, "Thanks. Now get some fucking sleep." And then a couple more smiley face emojis.
Yeah, and there's a second message, that comes after the first one, before your one goes out, and he's back to Icarus, not anytime soon. Shit went real bad the last time I was there. Can't talk now. If I do make it back, I'll tell you more then.
Elias doesn't reply. Heads back into the bar, removing his fedora as he ducks inside the smoky tavern. Got a little more information there for you, sir.
Oh, you do now, do you? Well. Let's continue.
And
I've kept your drink warm for you.
Yeah, I see you're enjoying one too.
Yes. It's not often that I can share something with someone who knows to appreciate the good stuff.
Don't I know it, Gabe? Don't I know it? And so, listen, man, if you've got a ride, got anything you need, you come to my shop. Here's where you'll find me. And he slides his card across the table to Gabe. With this Neuroshima. Got a little more info for my friend. I got a tip. Like I said, that spindly little fuck was involved in something way over his head. Way over his head. Some deal that went bad. I don't know if he's hurt. Like I said, I help people. I'm in the people helping business. But what I do know is he was involved with another guy. An old school guy. Kind of a weirdo. Went by the name of Quasi-Domo. I doubt that's his real name, but I'm sure that's the handle he went by in dive bars like these. Now, does that ring a bell for you, Gabe?
And you have had, I mean, your conversation has been going on enough with Gabe that you now have a good read on him. The moment you say Quasi-Domo, you can see that his facial expressions tighten. He's about to take a drink, sip from his glass, and he puts the tumbler down and he stares. He stares at you like mad dog eyes. Quasi-Domo, you say?
That's what I just said. Is it a name I shouldn't utter around here? If so, I'll shut the fuck up.
And he's kind of looking at you. Why do you need to find Quasi-Domo and this Neuroshima that is connected to him?
Like I said, Gabe, I deal in favors. I have a long list of friends, a long list of debts, but I also have a long list of men and women who owe me favors. And you know what, Gabe? He leans forward. Unlike these hackers who practice in anonymity, my reputation and my word, that's the only thing I have, Gabe. As a bartender and a purveyor of refined beverages, I think you get where I'm coming from.
He says, all right, wait here, don't move. And he kind of steps away from you towards kind of the center of the bar counter. Well, folks, it is past my bedtime. The Untitled is going to be closing down now. If you all would be so kind as to finish your drinks and leave. Please pay up. Do not hold out on me. You don't want me to come after you with my boys. So, please, I'm shutting down for the night. And if you can't get some sleep, that's on you. Go back to your little shitty holes and watch the latest in Disney's porno, I guess. I don't care, but fucking leave my bar right now. And you kind of hear like grumbles and moans like from all over the bar as people like, yeah, fuck it. It's like it's late in the night and the day anyway, so they start getting up and people start coming to Gabe, closing their tabs out and exchanging credits. This goes on for the next half an hour or so. Eventually, pretty much nobody's left except for you see what looks like three individuals that are standing there, and you kind of look around and they look at Gabe looks at them, and he just gives them a nod. The three of them stare at you, Elias, but they don't make a move. They're just looking at you intently. And then Gabe walks up to you. Well, Mr. Green, the bar is empty. Those are my men. No funny business. We talk shop, yes?
Mr. You'll get no funny business from me. Like I said, I came here to deal in favors and to find an old friend. Nothing underhanded, I promise.
All right. So now you owe me a favor for giving you all of this. I might not have a car now, but I might have in the future. And I'll know where to come and have it looked at. Upgrade a few things on it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got some of those spare parts laying around. Stuff legal, barely legal, and not fucking legal, if you know what I mean.
Abso-fucking-lutely. And he kind of looks at you. He turns around, grabs a bar stool from behind the counter, pulls it, sits on it. He opens the basil again, pours your tumbler and his tumbler, full, closes it, cocks it, and keeps it aside. So, Quasi-Domo. The name does ring a bell. I've not seen him for a long time. The last I saw him, actually, the last time I saw him, he was speaking to a hacker. He had dealt with this hacker before by the looks of it. And Quasi-Domo is not a guy that you can easily reach out to. Not many people know his name to begin with, and this hacker seemed to know. Why? I'm trying to remember his name. Can't remember for the life of me. Nonetheless, I remember Quasi-Domo. He walked through these doors. He saw the hacker, and I've seen Quasi-Domo get vexed, and he was fucking pissed. Looks like this hacker might have fucked with him before. I don't know. Me and my boys were ready at the back, in case shit went down. I was just escorted the both of them out on the street, and they can do whatever the fuck they want there. Not trash up my bar, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, Gabe. I know what you mean.
Well, yes, it was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think that's when I last saw Quasi. Yeah, he spoke to this hacker right here, not very far from where you're sitting now, Elias. They exchanged a few words. The hacker was with 2 other people. And he was a belligerent son of a bitch, if I remember that. Yeah, he came in here trying to make a deal. He was with this girl. Yeah, girl, I don't, mid-20s maybe. Yeah, she had a mask on. She had a fucking weird mask on her face. The hacker, and this one other guy, silent motherfucker, he stood by the door smoking his cigarettes. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy was a little worried about. He could take the whole place out if people are not careful around him. Yeah. But no, he was quiet by the door. And these two, this girl with the mask, she was talking to me. Yeah, she was talking to me. She was looking to sell some software. And that's when the hacker interjected. Like, he just completely overrode her. It was fucking weird. You know what I mean, Elias? Like, these hackers, they have no sense of propriety. You know what I mean? They do not know what a social context is. They just fucking butt in. Me and this lady were having a conversation, and he just fucking butts in, orders me around like I'm some like I'm his butler or something. What I mean, in a way I am, I guess. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Elias?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It might have something to do with why this guy got worked over, if you know what I say.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
How'd the night end for this spindly little fuck?
Well, it was interesting. So, he spoke to me, and he dropped Quasi's name. I was a little surprised. You don't just come in here and drop Quasi's name, but he dropped it like Quasi was his, Quasi was his fuck buddy or something. Anyway, whatever. So I call Quasi, right? I call Quasi and say, hey, there's a guy looking for you, and he wants to make a deal with you. Quasi comes in maybe an hour or so later, and the moment he locks eyes with this fuck hacker, yeah, Quasi's vexed, Quasi's pissed, right? Anyway, Quasi goes talks to this guy. They exchange a few words. I see that they even exchange a piece of paper or something, and the hacker just walks out. He just walks right on out, right? And he leaves the two of his friends just standing by, and I don't even think his friends knew what the fuck he was doing. He just walked on out. Yeah, I remember that. Quasi just, Quasi is Quasi. He doesn't let go of anything. So he just found a booth where he generally sits, and he was chilling out there. Yeah, I remember that, and I remember this lady. She then comes and talks to me. They're completely out of sync. She wants to sell the software. This hacker wants to sell the software. The hacker's already dealing with Quasi. It was a fucking mess, right? Unprofessional as fuck. What do I care? They're dealing with Quasi. And this lady with the mask, she says, okay, I'm sorry for all the hacker did and something or the other. And she talks to me about the software. She won't give me the details. But you know what's interesting? I know who sent her. I can't remember her name. She wears a mask, short hair. She was definitely Asian looking. I can't remember her name. But Zamir Or from Little Wing. You might know Zamir. Your address looks like it's from Little Wing as well.
Do I know Zamir?
Give me a connect plus int. Nice. Yes, you've heard of the name Zamir. Zamir and his shop of techno oddities. He's an older sort of guy. One of the few good people in the shithole that Icarus is, and he's old enough to be like somebody's like granddad. You've heard him. You've not met him personally, but he's someone who's seen the .com bubble burst, which nobody in today's day and age knows what even the fuck it means. He's in the nicer parts of Little Wing. You're in the shittier parts. He has a respectable business. People come to him with like broken down machines, broken down cyber decks, broken down electronics, broken down COM pads, data slabs, and he doesn't do anything illegal. He just fixes it, just rebuilds stuff for people, and he's one of the few people who really undercharges his customer. He's just in the late stages of his life. He's just trying to do some good. Yeah, Zamir sent this lady in. I don't know how he's mixed up with her. I mean, she didn't seem to have her shit together with this group. But hey, who am I to question Zamir? He has his own reasons, I guess. You know Zamir?
Yeah, I know that guy. Might as well be Santa Claus. Always helping everybody around the neighborhood. He's a good guy, though. Good guy. I've worked on his car a few times or two.
Yeah,
he still keeps that old gasoline guzzler. Yeah, remember that one? The red one.
Yes, that's him. Old Santa Claus.
Old Corvette. Everybody loves Sandy in a Corvette.
Yeah. They say...
maybe I'll need to go pay him a visit, Gabe.
Yeah, I think he should. Because, I mean... I've not seen these people after that. Like, whatever software they're talking about, I've not seen it come through my doors. I've not seen Quasi after that night. So really, I don't know. The way the hacker spoke, like he was kind of being very cagey about the software. It seemed that he knew a lot more about it than like the lady did. I don't know. But nonetheless, Zamir should know who the lady is and what she's all on about. But hey, This was a pleasant conversation. Let me, how about one more before one for the road before you head out?
Don't twist my arm here, Gabe. Okay.
This one's
One
on me.
finger's all.
This one's on me.
Ah.
And he pours you out a stiff one again. Well, here's to mysteries. Hey, Mr. Green. And he kind of clinks your glass and starts sipping on his basil.
Elias lifts the glass up and says, "Here's to those that are lost so that they may be found." Absolutely, Mr. Gabe. He downs the rest of his whiskey, and he reaches into his hip pocket and pulls out a generous tip and slides it across the bar to Gabe.
Oh.
"Here's for your help, sir," and kind of leans forward, and maybe your boys can get some haircuts after all this is over, huh?
Between you and me, Mr. Green, I think that's just for sure. I just have them as deterrents.
Oh, they're deterrents, all right.
Yeah.
They send the message loud and clear. Electric blue, sir.
Indeed. Now.
All right, Gabe. It's been real. You get some sleep now. Here tomorrow's going to be busy for you.
I hope so too. And you too, Mr. Green. Drive safe.
And he steps out into the rain and puts his fedora back on. And
so at this point, Elias, you're on you're back out on the street. You're by the car. It's close to 5 in the morning. Somebody like Zamir wouldn't be up this late, and you're kind of feeling sleepy yourself. All that basil in your system is not helping. But your car has autopilot, so you can just get back home and catch some sleep.
Absolutely. So I will do that, and I will send Val a quick update on the way in as he kind of cruises through the streets, turning left and right, not of his own accord. His car being piloted by the GPS. Val, he says, long night, got a lead, narrow lass with Asian lass wearing a mask. You know Zamir. Going to pay him a visit in the morning. Hopefully he knows more. Good night.
And with that, as Elias is heading back to his shop and to catch some much needed sleep, somewhere else in Icarus, the Eye is searching and it finds Detective Purcell. Detective Purcell has just been dropped back at his apartment, and Shades turns the car around and heads off into the night. Detective Purcell, you walk up to the door of your apartment. You see it's locked. There's nothing untoward about it. You open it, all your stuff is in where you left it. And you finally take this moment after your most interesting conversation with an unexplainable entity and some revelations that put you off ease about yourself. Go ahead.
So Purcell walks into his room, into his apartment. He scans the place. He looks from side to side. He takes his hat off of his head, holds it down at his side, rests against his thigh. And he's standing there and just kind of looking into the dark. He's not turning any lights on, letting whatever natural light from outside just kind of ooze in through the shades, through the dimming glass. And he walks over slowly towards the restroom. And as he's walking over towards the restroom, he's immediately starting to get undressed. He pulls the dirty and blood-stained shirt that he was wearing off and just lets it drop to the floor. He unbuttons. That's right, he didn't have a hat on. Sorry. He unbuttons his pants and just kind of lets them fall as he's walking and makes it to the restroom. And he gets to the restroom and he's standing in front of the mirror. And he's standing in front of the mirror looking at himself. And he flicks the light on. It's just a harsh, bright light in the dark room. And he winces just a little bit and then looks at himself in the mirror again. And he stares at his face. He stares at it for what feels like a very long time. Then slowly, almost timidly, he just kind of raises a hand and reaches out towards the mirror and tries to touch the reflection of his face in the mirror. And he's thinking about everything he heard and everything he saw. And he turns around, walks out of the room, walks into the kitchen area, turns a sink on, splashes some water on his face. Then he goes to his room, opens the closet, and sees his suits hanging on hangers in there, neatly pressed, all in a perfect row. Shoes shined, placed neatly at the bottom. And he just kind of fingers the hem of one of the suits, the pant leg. And he continues thinking about what he saw on that computer screen. The diagnostics, his head. And he thinks to himself, get back in the game. Get back in the game, Purcell. And he snatches one of his suits out of the closet, gives it a snap off of the hanger, quickly gets dressed. And he gets dressed and pulls his coat on. And he can't even tell if he's tired, if he needs sleep, if he even wants to sleep. He just knows that there's plenty that still needs to be done. So he grabs his gun, puts it in a holster inside of his coat, grabs a data pad, looks to see if there are any messages, and then sends a message to Elias. I'm coming to get my car. It better be where I left it. And he kind of flings that message off. And he looks around and sees where he left his hat. And he goes and he grabs it and kind of brushes the brim off just a little bit. Flicks it in his hands just gently as it makes a little circle. And then pops it onto his head. Brings his hands around the side of the brim, right to the front. Pulls the front down just a little bit. Make sure he has everything that he needs. And then he heads out to look for transportation. To go get his car.
As you head out into the cold Icarus daybreak, time is around 6 a.m. Elias has probably just gotten back home and crashed, not even seeing your messages. You see no response from him. And while you're waiting for your ride to get to Elias's place, you see something strange on your compad. There are no new updates. Before you went into the Daybreak Syndicate, you had read a report that samples had been collected from the warehouse explosion and samples analysis had been started. But after that, nothing. There are no new updates whether the samples were good enough or the samples were bad. There are no updates on whether the samples were correctly identified. Um, there is absolutely no new updates on this case from the Icarus PD since you went undercover.
So, Purcell, wanting to get the information he asks for, sends a message to the desk sergeant, and he fires off a quick message which says, "Hey, Doll, do you know what's going on with the information I asked for regarding the case I'm working on?" And he doesn't do much of it, sends it off to her, and then makes a mental note that he needs to go by the department and light a fire under them, get them going. He needs this information and he needs it now. So he sends that message and makes a note to go by the department as soon as he gets a chance.
You send the message off, goes out into the ether of cyberspace, at which point your ride, kind of makes a U-turn and comes to the curb and picks you up. Are you headed to Elias's place in Little Wing?
I am.
All right.
I'm getting my car.
You tell the cab driver where to go, and he sets off. He kind of gives you a look based on the location in Little Wing that you say you need to be dropped off. He says, I'm not going there, man. I'm going to drop you off a little further away. This time in the night and day, bad shit happens there. I'm not taking on that bad juju.
And Purcell, without even raising to look at him, meet his gaze, he reaches in and pulls his badge out. He pulls his badge out and shows it to the driver. "Take me where I need to go. You're going to be fine."
Man, put that shit away. Do you know there is a fucking war going on in Icarus right now? You think your badge is going to keep me safe? Fuck you, man. You want to get out now. Or I'm going to drop you where I'm going to drop you. Up to you. I'm going to take you to Little Wing, but I'm not taking you where you want to go. I'll take you to Little Wing where everybody can see me, drop you, see my car, not get shot at, and then leave that fucking place alive. Give me a no plus int. Wait, hold on. Sorry.
So yeah, I need my token.
Yeah.
And I can do it off the sheet if you want me to.
No. Just there. There we go. There you go. Nice. What the cab driver says, the way he speaks, you kind of catch yourself. Like, you've dealt with people. That's one of the things that you as a detective do, and you have skills that can, you detect people's intonations, the tremor in their voices. You can detect lies and truths, right? And you can detect above all else fear. And there is fear in this man's voice when he speaks about that. And while he's driving, you pull up your data slab and you start looking for what he's talking about, and you find that yes, there has been the reports call it, they don't call it a war. I mean, news reports have to be little less dramatic. They're talking about a gang violence in Sector 6. It seems there were rockets fired. There was an explosion. Multiple dead bodies were found. It seems there might be a turf war going on. You look up Sector 6 and you find that Sector 6 is actually neighbors the stacks. It's not a great neighborhood because it neighbors the stacks, but it is basically where the stacks stop being the stacks and starts becoming respectable, and that is basically Sector 6. And it was on the fringes of Sector 6 that there seems to be some gang violence and turf war going on. And Little Wing itself is not really far from the stacks. It's close-ish. So, him being paranoid about going to these areas makes sense now.
Okay, so ignoring how he's talking to me and understanding that it's coming from a place of fear, Purcell will just tell him to drop me off as close as he'll get. Then,
thanks, man. I mean, I respect the badge, officer. Don't get me wrong, but anyway. And he starts driving, and he kind of you can see him looking straight, and you kind of take now the time to actually look at the man, look at this person, and he kind of seems a little aging, maybe in his late 50s. He doesn't seem, most cabbies are stocky, well built, have this mean and gruff look about them. I mean, that's what it takes to drive around Icarus, letting strangers in your car. But this one seems, you kind of get the sense that, look around and you see that there are a couple of pictures of what looks like grandkids on his dashboard, and there seems to be some sort of a new age religious symbol, like you've heard about this. It's it's a little weird. They believe in UFOs and something else and stuff like that, and it's kind of hanging from his rear view mirror. And he says, "Thanks, Anthony. Connery should drive." And about 30 minutes later, it's now 6:45ish, almost 7. You get to Little Wing. This is the place where you first arrived, and you remember once he gets here and he's like, "Oh, well, have a pleasant day, officer," and he kind of charges you a little less. It's okay. I can drop you where you need to go, but from here, if you go down, straight down and hang a left, straight down and hang a left, you should be able to get to where you're going.
Yeah, Purcell looks at him and sees him just kind of stammering and just wanting to get out of there. So Purcell kind of digitally sends over the credits for the ride. Get out of here, and just turns around, shuts the door, and starts walking through Little Wing to get over to Elias' place.
All right. And as you're walking to Little Wing, the sun over Icarus starts rising slowly, and you get to see Little Wing without the lights and the neon, and without the people around, and just like everything else in Icarus, it's a dump. The lights and the neon and all the open street food joints and vendors kind of give it a life, but at 7 in the morning, this place is completely dead. There's trash strewn everywhere. There is, what looks like used data sticks, needles, prophylactics. Just, it's a mess. And you start walking, and eventually you get to a point where you turn the corner, and you now come to the point where you see, you remember this alleyway and Elias's shop is right there, not very far. Um, this place, was shitty when you first saw it, when you first got here to meet Elias. Now, in the light of day, you really realize how disgustingly bad this place is. Um, what you saw behind you, um, uh, that looks like a vacation spot compared to the dump that is this place. And you look around and you start making your way to Elias's shop, and you see right outside his shop, your car is parked.
So I walk up to the car and I, lean down just a little bit with my right hand covering my eyes like a visor, and look into the windows just to see if there's anything disturbed. I walk around the car, look at it from all angles, and Purcell looks around the neighborhood, just shakes his head. And yeah,
go ahead.
And Purcell just thinks to himself, yeah, makes sense that Elias would have a business here. And he's just checking the car out. And what were you going to say?
Yep. So you look around the car. It's interesting, even in a shitty neighborhood like this, your car seems to be fine. Nobody has stolen the hubcaps or the wheels off. There are no dents or scratches. Nobody's damaged it or vandalized it. Gives you a sense of like Elias has some pull in this part of town. You kind of walk around it, giving a close inspection, and it doesn't escape your eye that on the driver's side there seem to be some scuff marks, right where the window meets the rest of the frame of the door. And you kind of, when you look at it closely, it doesn't take you too long to detect that Elias tried to do kind of some sort of like a jimmy or shimmying some metal piece and unlocking the door from inside, right? This is one of those like retro futuristic cars that has some aspects to which are retro and some of it is futuristic. So Elias being Elias, he knows enough about cars and machines like this. He knew how to kind of wiggle the lock and unlock it.
Yeah, Purcell notices that, and he just kind of sets his hand on the door right there where the door meets the window, the door frame meets the window, and smirks just a little bit to himself, shakes his head, and he turns around and he goes to Elias's business and just starts pounding on the door.
Inside, Elias is sleeping. He is sprawled out on the bed, on his belly with his left hand overhead, and the covers kind of partially down over his waist, where he wears a dirty pair of boxers. And he hears outside early in the morning. He's probably only had a couple hours of sleep, and just knock. Who is it? Who is it? We're not open yet.
Open the door, Elias. It's Purcell.
And he kind of pops up out of bed. Ah, Columbo, you didn't make an appointment. And Elias rushes down the steps, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, and opens the door. He looks like basically like the dude from Big Lebowski when he opens the door. He has like his robe on and like boxer shorts and a hairy chest and maybe some slippers that have like bunny rabbits on them or something like that.
Yeah, and Purcell walks in when you open the door, and he kind of grimaces just a little bit when he sees you standing there. The complete opposite in a sharply pressed suit, clean, with his hat, shoes with a shine on them, and sees you standing there in your robe and boxers.
Don't just stand there, man. Come on inside. It's cold outside. You might poke your foot with a hypodermic needle. Watch out there. Don't step there.
And Purcell steps in and just kind of mumbles to himself a little bit, looks around the room. Still doesn't look like the kind of place that requires an appointment.
Oh, like I say, I'm a professional, Detective Purcell. I'm a professional. But I'm a very, very tired fucking professional. He stumbles through his shops, kicking some old cans out of the way, and makes his way over to an automatic coffee machine. Pushes a button. Soon the aroma of fresh coffee starts to fill the shop. As Elias Green slowly wakes up, he turns on an old TV set. It's black and white. He knocks it. It has like an old disc in there. It's playing Wizard of Oz, and there's a scene of the Tin Man. You can see Dorothy kind of putting oil in his joints. And he goes, I always loved that one, a classic. My buddy Val did too. The Tin Man. Hilarious. So, Detective, what can I do you for? And he walks over and grabs a cup. It ain't much, but it'll take the sleep out of your face.
Purcell takes the cup of coffee, and as he takes the cup of coffee, he steps further into the shop TV, and he sees the image of the Tin Man on the TV, and for a moment he's just staring at it and holding the cup of coffee, feeling the warmth of the cup in his hands. And he hears Elias mumbling something, but he's tuning it all out as he sees this old show on the vid screen of this Tin Man standing there. And Elias says something else that catches Purcell's ear, and he snaps out of it and turns around and looks at Elias again and says, sorry, what was that?
I was saying, the coffee tastes like shit, but it'll wake you up. What? He kind of looks at Purcell watching the screen. You haven't seen that one? Should have guessed. Nobody likes the old films anymore. Tin Man. He was afraid he didn't have a heart, but in the end, he found his heart. It was a good story, just like they used to tell him. None of that glitz and glamour. Pretty lead actress, though. She liked her pills. He sits back and rummages through his desk and finds a couple caffeine pills and pops them into his mouth. So, Purcell, think I found some things you may be interested in while you're here.
And Purcell looks at him, raises an eyebrow. You found something? What do you mean you found something?
Now, out of character, Cypher, was he looking for Neuro as well? He was looking for Neuro as well, correct?
I don't think Purcell has ever heard that name.
Yeah, no, he doesn't know. He doesn't know about Neuro and the stuff that you've been investigating.
Okay,
Yeah.
Never mind then. Yeah, he just turns the computer around. Found a few more things about this Daybreak Syndicate. Here's all the information here. Here's a list of my, over to him. Starting to feel a little guilty about it. The more I read about this organization, the more I learn about them. Bunch of lobotomized robots creep me out.
And Purcell walks over and kind of leans forward a little bit to get a closer glance at the screen that he's turned towards him. He sets the cup of coffee down on the desk as he leans forward. And then he steps back again, pulls the coffee up, and takes a sip of it. Where are my keys, Elias?
Elias looks in the desk drawer next to the caffeine pill, finds the keys, and flips them over to the detective. Right here, good sir. Right here, good sir. Not a scratch on your ride, I dare say.
Yes, well, I hope you enjoyed it. I doubt you'll get that chance to do that again. And he takes a sip of coffee and looks around the room. I have some things I have to do today, Elias. I'm not sure, but I might need you a little later on. It's never bad to have a local on your side. I'm going to be headed down to the docks. Do you know anyone? I'm going to be headed to a warehouse. Do you know anyone in that area? And he kind of lets him know what area he's talking about, where the warehouse is located, where the explosion was, that kind of stuff.
Can I make a check for that?
No, you don't have to. You would know that area. It's up to you how you want to role play, but through that area, there have been times where you have received shipments for interesting items. Those rocket launchers that you were going to set up on Black Coffee. Yeah, that's one of the places where those things got shipped through. Sometimes a container gets missed here and a container gets picked up somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, you're heading down to the docks. I know a few guys and gals down that way, yeah. If you make your way down there, be sure to talk to Boris. He unloads the ships, and from time to time, a shipment goes missing, and they seem to end up in my shop. Oh, I forgot almost that you were a cop. I do believe you have an understanding, Detective Purcell. The slammer, huh?
Yeah, we have a deal, Elias. And rather than mentioning that you sent me, you might be going with me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, wouldn't hurt to have a familiar face, someone people know, someone people are more willing to talk to. I walk in there, and lots of times people like to clam up, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah. I hear what you're saying. And kind of looks down at his clothes. And I do only have that one suit, sir. I could use a couple more.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I think for the time being, I've given you plenty of money. Lots of zeros on the end of that last number I gave you. You're going to have to really earn any more than that. And you can start by showing me this warehouse. I'm going to run by there, take a look at it, after I go chew out some sergeants. And maybe you can meet me there.
Sounds like a plan to me, Columbo. You know me, though. I never neglect my personal appearance. I need a few minutes to get ready, shower, wash my hair, brush my teeth, shave and shit, as they say. I'll meet you down at the docks directly, sir.
You'll have plenty of time. Why don't you rest for an hour or two? I'm going to go to the precinct, take care of some business. Let's say we meet at the location in about 2.5 hours.
You got it, Columbo. See you there. And you can take the coffee with you.
And Purcell takes a sip of the coffee and he turns to walk out. As he turns to walk out, he stops for just a moment and glances back at the vid screen again and sees the Tin Man on there. Looks like they're doing some kind of dance number. Purcell just winces just a little bit and turns, walks out the door.
You walk out of the door and you get to your car. The keys work.
Yep. So Purcell gets in the car, sees that the seat's been adjusted just a little bit, so he readjusts it for himself. He looks around. He looks around the dash. He looks around the car, the passenger seat. Everything looks to be in place. He reaches up and kind of messes with the screen, the computer screen, and he starts punching in the coordinates for the precinct, the police precinct, to head there.
All right. You start heading towards the police precinct, and as you do, you continue to read for any new reports, and there is nothing much, but something else catches your eye. As you're going through, there's no new reports on your investigation. There are some reports about gang violence, but there is nothing much. It looks like it's the new information on a need-to-know basis. But something else catches your eye. It's about a shooting where two police officers were gunned down in what seems like an alleyway. The circumstances are not quite clear. It seems they were there looking for some troublemakers, and then they were gunned down. So you catch that. So you see that there seems to be a lot of stuff going on. There's gang violence in one place and police officers being shot down in some other place.
Yeah, Purcell, as the car's driving through the streets, he's going over all of this information. He's hitting the screen. He's entering other information and trying to get more details on the gang violence, what gangs are involved, but also the police shooting. He wants to look in the police database to find out what the internal records are showing and saying about that as well, who it was, what exactly they were doing there, that kind of thing.
And when you pull out those records, you see that this is again odd. The information is being withheld, and it says for any more information, and you see who has withheld information, and you see the name and you recognize it. It's the lieutenant at the Icarus PD who you met, Lieutenant Adams.
Purcell raises an eyebrow, and he again just tries to find out as much as he can. He starts pulling up all the information he can on the warehouse destruction. He starts replaying the audio of his interrogation of the gang member that was in custody. I mean, he's basically going over all the different loose ends to try and figure out what happened. He also, sitting there replaying the audio from the interrogation, he catches something curious that the gang member says, that he kind of ignored the first time, but he doesn't know why. But this time, it stands out to him. He said something about helicopters, and he thinks airspace security should have some information on that. Helicopters can't just fly into the city without someone knowing. So he starts looking up records on flight paths and patterns that were in and out of the city that night, to find out where the hell these helicopters came from, where they went, who they belonged to, and starts punching all that information as well.
Okay, all right. So give me a. I would do it this way. This would be a multi-part role. So the first one would be a know plus intelligence. Okay, perfect. And then give me a notice plus wisdom. All right, nice. So you start, you punch in all the information, and you pull up all the information that is there about flight paths over Icarus, um, that the night of the explosion, and and everything seems to be in order. There were multiple flights flying out of Icarus Airport. There were private charters flying around Icarus, and private charters are generally like, um, you know, either people with money or connected people being ferried across Icarus who don't want to be stuck in traffic. Um, and but at the same time, something is off. It it almost you almost miss it, and then you see it again. And it's ever so slight. Um, there is a flight path for a registered, uh, aircraft, and the aircraft registration comes up as it has been sent to. It's been, it's part of a like a tour group, right? There's one more registration that comes up as connected to like a like a helicopter ferry service, like taking people from one top of one building to another, like high flying corporates would use that. But that all seems fine, nothing's wrong with it. And as you're kind of panning and moving the map around, you're looking at all these flight paths, you notice something strange. You notice that underneath the flight paths, which are registered, which have been filed, which have been tracked, there is a secondary line. The secondary line is just below the flight path of the legal one. But the secondary line has no identification number. There is no transponder number. There is no information as to who is flying these helicopters. You now start panning and zooming the map, and you start spreading it out, breaking it into layers, and this is very like Minority Report style kind of hand movements as the car is being driven by the automaton. And you notice that it's very interesting. There are 6 helicopters that were underneath valid data flight paths, but the 6 helicopters have no registration, no transponder, no filed flight path. You also notice that the 6 helicopters just pop up. There is no line from their origin. They just suddenly appear underneath. Their lines suddenly appear. It's as if like somebody was flying below radar and then just lifted, and they're suddenly in radar range. And then you notice that after a point, they kind of get fuzzy. There's not much information. But you also realize the point of where it gets fuzzy, it's not very far from there to the docks.
So Purcell, looking at this information, trying to figure out what this means, he puts in the coordinates of the warehouse that was destroyed. His whole reason for being here, and he drops the coordinates of the warehouse and puts like a digital way marker on it, and combines that with the location of the helicopters as they fade in and out on the sub screen, and see how close they connect.
And you notice that you're able to kind of add some like a fuzzying logic to look at their flight paths, and you notice that all 6 helicopters if you kind of draw out their flight paths from where they got fuzzy to where the actual warehouse exploded, it's a direct line. You also
Purcell,
realize when you look at this is that this is some really high-tech shit to hide everything.
yeah, Purcell just slumps back in his seat where he had been leaning forward before looking at the data. He slumps back in his seat, just kind of shocked at what he's seeing and what it implies. He doesn't really know what to make of it. He just knows that it's significant, the type of technology being used, and the fact that helicopters with that technology might be being used makes this much bigger than what he originally thought. In his head, he's going over corporate espionage or even gangs destroying evidence after stealing and raiding from the warehouse. But this almost seems tactical, military-like. And he starts trying to figure out who has that kind of pull, who has those kinds of resources, and who can make something like that happen. And he starts going through his list of people in Icarus that have those capabilities, and starts looking for motivations for in that direction. Of course, he's doing all this while the car is going to the precinct. But he wants to get that data started at least, and let it start stockpiling so that he has something to go over.
All right. So you put your queries into the system, and the system is running it and kind of trying to come up with some models and simulations as to what are some of the predictions. While all this is happening, the car pulls up on the curb, up to the curb, and right next to the Icarus PD building. You have arrived at your destination.
Yep. Purcell lets the computer run in the background as he steps out of the vehicle. He steps out into the daylight now, and just looks around. His foot out the door onto the pavement. His shiny black shoe, followed by the other one. He pulls himself out of the car, puts his coat on, gives it a little tug at the collar, kind of snaps it, and looks around and heads into the precinct.
Mm-hmm. You climb up the many floors of the precinct, and eventually you get inside. Give me a notice plus wisdom. Nice. You notice the following. Every cop inside the precinct seems to be wearing combat armor. You notice the desk of that sergeant you connected with earlier when you first came to Icarus PD is empty. All of her belongings are in a box. You notice on the wall over here there are multiple images. One looks to be like a laundromat, and you can't clearly see, but you can see there is a lot of blood everywhere in the laundromat. The other seems to be what looks like a water tower having exploded into a marketplace, like a what do you call, like certain parts of a city will have like a roundabout, and there are a bunch of businesses, and it seems to be like a water tower in that kind of an area has exploded. And there are some more images of what seems to be an alleyway and some sort of like a dive bar or something. And there seems to be again like the chalk marks of multiple bodies. And inside the lieutenant's office, you can see him pacing up and down, and he's kind of screaming into a phone.
So Purcell walks through the precinct and takes all of this in, his eye kind of catching all these little details as he just swiftly walks through. And he makes a line straight to Lieutenant Adams' office, glancing over at the desk sergeant's desk, seeing that it's empty, and furrows his brow just for a brief moment as he walks by it to Lieutenant Adams' office. And once he gets to Lieutenant Adams' office, he just pushes on the door and lets himself in.
You walk in and he kind of, you can see him, I want it to be fucking done now. No more fucking delays. I want to know what the fuck happened there, who the fuck killed them. And then he looks up and he looks at you and he's extremely irritated. What the fuck are you doing here? I'll call you back. And he puts the phone down and he looks at you. Where the fuck have you been?
I've been following up on my investigation, Lieutenant. I understand you have your hands full here. A couple of your boys decided to get into a fight in an alley. What happened?
My boys. And he kind of scratches his left eyebrow and kind of pinches the temples. No, my boys didn't get into a fucking fight. My people were investigating on your behalf, Detective Purcell, where when you were gallivanting about town, you were not to be found. My people were returning from the warehouse explosion when they... And he stops. He looks around, makes sure that nobody else in the Icarus PD is looking in at their office. I cannot prove this, but I do not believe that my officers would be stupid enough to enter an alleyway to go after some hoodlums when they were carrying important evidence with respect to the warehouse explosion. And he kind of lowers his voice even more. I have not known street hoodlums to take off with evidence. Yes, that's what the fuck's going on.
And Purcell looks at the lieutenant. I'm sorry you lost your officers. I really am. I need to know, though, what they were doing there and what evidence they've collected.
He looks around again. I don't know who to trust in my department right now, Detective. I do not. You are not from my department. So, and I don't think you would have come all the way out here to kill 2 of my officers and stir up all this shit. Between you and me, some of the logs have been falsified. On the out and out, it looks like Sergeant Sylvia over there and a partner were called in as backup for some crime that was ongoing in Sector 6. Sergeant Sylvia wouldn't have gone in unless it was someone important calling for her, because she was already assigned the task to bring the evidence from the warehouse in. She said she had found something very interesting among the debris, something that would point to some major player inside of Icarus, someone that was at the heart of all of this. That was the last communique I got from her. Next thing I know, She and her partner are dead in their pool of blood by their patrol car. Evidence is not to be found. Not only that, whatever call went out and brought them to that location, I can find no logs of it.
Out of character, real quick. Sergeant Sylvia?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the blonde?
Yep.
Oh, you fucker. Okay.
You had both talked, and she said she will do what she can to investigate, right?
Yep. So, Purcell takes his hat off and he looks at a chair, kind of points to the chair with his hat in his hand. Do you mind if I have a seat, Lieutenant?
Please do. I am sorry. I do not. I'm sorry. And he kind of raises his hand. He points you to the chair. He sits down at his desk, opens the cabinet, and he pulls out what looks like a bottle of straight American whiskey, and he pours it in 2 glasses and pushes one towards you. I do not like losing my people.
And Purcell reaches across the desk and accepts the glass, pulls it towards him, and takes a drink. He takes a drink with, a big gulp, and he just kind of sits there for a moment with his eyes closed and just lets the taste of the drink kind of linger on his tongue and his mouth, letting the warmth coat his throat as it goes down. And he opens his eyes and looks at the lieutenant. You're right, Lieutenant. I'm not part of your precinct. I came here to figure out what's going on, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to figure out what's going on. Seems like some strings getting pulled has stirred up some trouble. The loss of your officers. I've also kind of discovered a couple of things myself. And I'm going to need some help figuring out what to make of it. We're going to need access to the precinct's computer, their mainframe. We're going to need someone who knows how to operate it, who knows how to run information through the computer to get the information I need. I don't need some desk jockey. I need someone who knows their way around the network and knows how to operate the precinct's mainframe.
He nods. You won't find someone like that within the precinct. What you're looking for is a hacker. Now, you didn't hear this from me. I don't know what you're talking about. This conversation didn't happen. I'm going to write down a name and a location. And if you can get through to this person, they might be able to help you. It's not like I do not think my people are good. Like I said, I do not know who to trust in the department right now. If what you plan to run on these computers is found out and is leaked, then that door shuts down as well. I think we're in a unique position, Detective Purcell. I think you working from the outside using non-sanctioned resources means whoever has infiltrated us will not have a read on you and your work.
That's smart thinking, Lieutenant. You're right. We shouldn't be using any resources, at least not for my part of the investigation within the department. If you don't know who to trust, then I sure as hell don't know who to trust. I'll take the name, and I'll take it to someone I know, a local. He can point me in the right direction.
And he writes a name, and the name is Quinn, Quinn. He writes it on a paper, doesn't say it, and he writes the location untitled on it. And folds up the paper and hands it to you, doesn't say anything. When you leave the precinct and you're by yourself, open it up and take it from there, detective. There's something else.
What is it, Lieutenant?
I do not believe in coincidences. I didn't get this far in this career, in this fucked up of a city, believing in coincidences. The night Officer Olivia was shot and her partner was shot. Couple of things. One, there were no shell casings. None. The killing was execution style. 2 through the heart, 1 through the head. Clean. Our coroner had to put it under a microscope to see that the 2 shots were actually 2 shots. It was that accurate. It was a bullet and a bullet again through the same hole. That is extremely skilled work.
That's definitely not a gangbanger.
No, it's not. My department is my department, but they're not the brightest when it comes to stuff like this. They see a gangbanger, they see an easy way to close a file and close a case, they will take it. And most of these people have been bought and paid for. Hell, I am bought and paid for. But the people who have bought me and paid for me, they're not in this, detective. If they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Second thing. When this happened, on one end of Sector 6, on the other end, that's when he points to this board over here. That's where that fucking mess happened. On the other end of Sector 6. Around the same time. It's a little crazy. The sources and the reports coming in are kind of all over the place. On one end, we have a laundromat where 5 members of the Chaos Gang, they are I wouldn't say ex, they are part of a stacks. They were operating to the stacks before they were pushed out by the current gang that's running the stacks. Well, 5 of those guys were murdered in cold blood. They seem to have shot a lot of bullets, but all the blood we find there belongs to people who have the bodies are found. And not a few blocks away, a rocket was fired and it exploded a water tank into a market square. Not a few blocks away, at another Chaos Gang hideout, there were more bodies found. What's interesting is that a bunch of these bodies seem to have had sword attacks. They were killed by a sword and then shot up.
A sword?
Yes.
You mean a long blade?
Yes, a long blade. That's what. And he kind of looks around. The people in my department think I'm kind of losing it. Nobody believes that the sword attacks are real. They think that the coroner just had too much fucking whiskey before he did his report. But I know that guy. He's seen a lot of shit. He may be a drunk, but he's a functional drunk. There are definitely sword attacks, and then they were covered up with submachine gun fire raked over the bodies. It's very hard, but it's there. But it's not going in the official report, obviously, because nobody's going to believe me. Nobody in the department believes me.
Okay. Multiple gang attacks throughout the area. Sector 6.
Yes.
Someone using a sword to take out gang members. Detect our police officers being executed. And it's covered up as just gang violence again. And then heavy weaponry being used. This sounds like potentially a gang war, but the officers being executed, that's different. And if they were lured there and executed, you need to watch out for yourself as well, Lieutenant.
Yes. That's why I'm telling you all of this. You are the unknown detective. You're one that whoever has planned this and is orchestrating this would not have accounted for. Like I said, my department has been bought and sold multiple times. Hell, I am bought and sold, right? Which means whoever is planning or has planned this would know all of our movements, all of our thoughts, all of our strategies, right? They would have planned for all of our eventual, well, tactics. But you're an outsider. You have free reign. If somebody comes and asks me, who's this person? I'll just shrug my shoulders. I don't know. You're not registered as part of my department. You're not even one of my men. But what I would say, detective, is you need to go to these areas and take a closer look. If Officer Sylvia found something in those warehouses, I'm pretty sure there must be more what she found.
My next stop was the warehouse. I came by here because I asked for some information and I haven't received it yet. I wanted a reading on the explosives that were used, chemical makeup. I haven't received that information yet. I'm just wondering, what else have I not received? What other information is being delayed in this hen house of a precinct? No offense. But now that I'm talking to you and you're letting me know all of this, I can understand what's going on, what the delay is. I'm sorry for the loss of your officers, Lieutenant. And Purcell stands up out of the chair, and he's still holding the glass. I'll get to work looking in all of these different locations. I want you to send me all the information that you have. I want you to send me the coordinates. I want you to send me the names of the people that you've already talked to. I want everything that you have, everything that you just told me. Send it to my data pad, and I'll follow up on all of it.
No, not to your data pad. Hold on. And you see that he kind of reaches from underneath his table to a drawer and pulls out what looks like a data stick. He connects a data stick and runs basically some commands. And it takes about a few minutes. He just says, hold on. After that, he ejects it. Here's a copy of all the information required. I've made it look like I just take a backup on a data stick, right? If anybody is watching my precinct, anybody's infiltrated it, it's just a lieutenant making backups of his investigation files. No different. It's on a data stick. It must be in his office. But no, you have this data stick, Detective Purcell, and when you hook it up to your machine, which will authorize it as a terminal for a Icarus PD, you'll be able to access it. But you are not part of Icarus PD. Your systems are not on our network. So when you look at these files, nobody else should know what you're looking at.
Purcell puts the data stick in his coat pocket on the inside, and he nods to the lieutenant. You're full of good ideas today, Lieutenant. And he stands up and pushes the glass across the desk, the empty glass now, with two fingers, and slowly just slides it across the desk. I appreciate the drink. I know you have a lot of work to do, so I'm going to let you get to it. I'm going to follow up on all of this.
And before you leave, detective, and he kind of writes something on a piece of paper and hands it to you. This is my other phone. Do not come back here to the precinct anymore, detective. If you want to discuss something with me, call me on this phone. And he hands you the paper. If I'm being tapped, I don't know if I am. You might say I'm being paranoid. If I'm being tapped, and I think I may be, I do not know, just call me on that one. That's an unregistered phone. No one knows I have it.
And Purcell raises an eyebrow just a little bit at all of this. He just nods. He straightens his coat out and he turns to leave. And as he turns to leave and heads to the door, he stops for just a moment. We're going to find who got your officers, Lieutenant. We're going to find them, and they're going to pay.
Best of luck, detective.
Purcell nods and pushes through the door and starts walking out. And as he's walking out, he's being very mindful of his surroundings, and he's looking at everyone as he's walking out. He tries to catch everyone's eyes, makes eye contact with them, just because of the suspicion going on, because of the lieutenant's suspicions. Purcell just wants to look everyone he can in the eye as he's walking out.
Mm-hmm. Give me a notice plus wisdom. As you walk out, you basically lock eyes with all the police officers in the room. Most seem to be busy. They look up at you, they give you like a stare because your get-up is so different from everybody else, and they go back to what they're doing. But two officers, they catch your eye and you catch their eyes. You're not quite sure, but there's a gut feeling that you cannot suppress. You know they're dirty, you know they know, and they know something.
And Purcell just makes a mental note of who they are and continues walking out to the car.
All right.
And as he's... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, all right.
Okay, and as he's walking out, he shoots a message off to Elias. Meet me at the warehouse as soon as you can. And he gets into the car and punches in the coordinates for the warehouse. Starts looking up the information that was loading in the background, compiling in the background. Looks for anything that stands out, looks for anything new, and starts heading to the warehouse.
All right. While all this is happening back at Elias's shop, Elias, you had a few more hours of sleep, and it's now roughly about like 9 a.m. and you see there's a message from Detective Purcell asking you come to the docks. You also see that it's 9 a.m. and somebody like Zamir would have also opened his shop. What would you like to do at this point?
Waking up and rubbing his eyes and looking at his data pad, he sees the two messages come through. And he's like, oh, that's not like the detective. He's not one to act so rash and ask. Old Grandpa can wait. After all, he's been a little bit crotchety before he's had his breakfast. And Elias Green will go downstairs and head out the door towards the docks.
All right. You leave your apartment, leave your place of business where appointments are important and necessary, and you walk to the better parts of Little Wing. Nobody's going to pick you up from this shitty part of Little Wing. And about an hour or so later, through rush hour traffic, and you eventually get to the docks. Hold on. Go ahead.
So, Purcell, when he got to the docks, he got out of his vehicle, and he walked over to that gating, that railing, and just kind of looked over at the water, and then he looked at the destruction behind him. The destroyed building, the ash and the steel and everything just in a mess. And he turns and looks at it, and he stands there just kind of glancing at all of it, and starts walking towards it, and starts kind of walking through his and ash as he starts looking around the destroyed warehouse, waiting for Elias.
Eventually, you look down the street and you see a taxi turn the corner and roll down the streets towards you. Eventually, the car slows down, and then you can see a couple figures inside the car exchange some money, and out of the car steps Elias Green. He looks at the wet pavement and puts a cigarette on it, and puts his hat on his head, looks around, tries to spot Detective Purcell. If he does, he walks towards them, giving him a very brief salute.
And Purcell sees Elias walking up to him, wearing that hat. And Purcell smiles. Actually, he smiles when he sees Elias walking towards him. The smile fades quickly, though, as he walks up to Elias. Nice hat, Elias.
Oh, you like this? I got it from a new friend, huh? I hope it brings me good luck.
Yeah, you look dapper, Elias.
That is always my aim. Like I said, people don't want to come to Little Wing, the most illustrious part of town, unless they can do business with somebody that looks professional and well-groomed. Am I right?
You are absolutely correct, Elias. And it's your business acumen is the reason I asked you here. And Purcell pulls his pad out and the paper out, and he looks up. He hands the paper over to Elias with the name written in it. Quinn. Do you know this person? And Purcell's looking down at his data pad as he hands it over to Elias. Doesn't look up. He's just looking down at his data pad as he asks, do you know this person?
And Elias looks at it. Quinn. Do I know a Quinn?
You don't know a Quinn, but you also notice on the paper that there's the word Untitled written, and you know the Untitled, and you know people at the Untitled now.
I don't know a Quinn, but I know of that place. Yeah, they might call it Untitled, but I know who works there. I know the bartender quite well. We recently did a little bit of business together.
And Purcell looks up from his data pad. That's why I brought you along, Elias. You know people, you know places. We're going to take a trip out to the Untitled after we're done here. Maybe we'll go there this evening. You can wear that hat.
Ah, I look forward to it, Purcell. And while we're gallivanting about, I have a stop I need to make as well, but no rush there, no rush there. Old friend of mine. He knows people too, though. You might like him. Maybe he can help you.
Maybe I can, Elias. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Well, you scratched my back something awful with all those zeros in the paycheck. So, like you said, you have my help for the time being. And you don't do me wrong, you'll have it for a long time to come, Columbo.
And while Elias is standing there, Purcell starts walking through the destruction of the warehouse, and just starts looking around as Elias is talking. He's trying to see if anything stands out, if he notices anything that he would want to be aware of.
All right. And so you guys are looking about, and Elias, you had also spoken about a guy called Boris, who works at the docks, and you have contact with them before. And you get a message from Boris saying, yeah, he's at the docks, and he's free to chat.
Elias kind of goes up to Detective Purcell and says, I know you like the smell of dead mackerel and air pollution in the morning, Detective, but I don't know if time is best spent wandering around the docks all day. Hey, my pal Boris just sent me a message here. Him and his old pops. Yeah, they like to talk, especially if the lips are greased with a little good vodka, if you know what I mean.
Purcell nods. Doesn't say much, but he nods as he's looking around the warehouse. He's like, all right, let's talk to Boris.
Boris. And so, as they're walking towards the dock house, Elias Green explains a little bit about Boris. He also has his father, who's named Boris, and they're a couple old Russians that run the docks, and maybe from time to time they accept a bribe to make sure that a pallet goes missing here or there. But like many things, old Elias Green, like Purcell says, he scratches their back, they scratch his. So he has a good working relationship with these guys, and, well, even though he wouldn't cross them, he trusts them for the acquisition of information and that sort of thing.
Well, that's why I have you here, Elias. Like I said, you know people. You know the places. Go ahead, lead on. I'll follow you.
And
Elias
as
Green. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as Elias is, taking you, Elias, you kind of see down from the docks, you see a figure walking, and you realize he's kind of waving at you. And as you guys get a little closer, Elias, you notice that that's Boris walking up towards you. I want both of you to give me a notice plus wisdom. Hold on. And you guys are walking down the docks towards Boris.
And Purcell, as he sees Boris walking towards them, he catches something in his eye, and he looks for just the briefest moment when he grabs Elias by the collar and yanks him down behind the car.
What the?
And pulls him down straight with him behind the car.
And you hear the single gunshot of a sniper rifle go off, and just as Detective Purcell pulls Elias down, the window the window of the window of the car just explodes into a million pieces as it just shatters, and both Elias, Detective Purcell, you hear the bolt action, and and just when that happens, a car kind of comes screeching around the corner, and two more people jump out of the car. Boris, seeing all this commotion, runs behind and hides behind what looks like a container. And as this is happening, the two people who jump out of the car kind of jump out and kind of start running sideways and strafing your car with submachine gun bullets. And as this is all happening, the eye of Icarus pans out and sees this battle unfolding as the screen fades to black.
Oh, come on.
Ah, Boris!
Oh my god.
And with that, we bring the session to an end.